Hello there, and welcome once again to the Mayor's Magazine. I'm Mick Cornett, the mayor of Oklahoma City, and this is our show for November 2012. In our first segment, a special guest, Jenny Carlson's here from the Oklahoman. Welcome to the Mayor's Magazine.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're going to talk about thunder here for a while. And
All right.
You know, the season's brand new. Month of November is kind of when everybody kind of gets reinvigorated about basketball. How have things changed from this November to last November?
Yeah, I think last November a lot of people had high hopes and expectations for this team, thought they might be able to go to the NBA Finals and contend in that way, but now there's sort of an expectation after last year, Western Conference champions and that great playoff run, and then, you know, playing the Heat and seeing not quite to that level yet, but not that far away. I think a lot of people are really expecting that the Thunder gets back to that level, which last year it was a thought they might be there. Now there's sort of this feeling, all right, we know what a great team this is.
Yeah, the casual fan may not know that the Los Angeles Lakers went out and improved their roster on paper. The Miami Heat, as if they could improve their roster, apparently have improved their roster. And yet the Thunder has kind of stayed solid with what they had. But is it a reasonable expectation to say, well, these guys, though, are on the younger end of the age spectrum, they ought to get better, and even though it's not on paper, it's the same guys, there's an expectation that they ought to be better than they were last year, too?
I think so, because they are still a young group, a developing group. I think it's safe to say that you can keep the same guys and still get a different team, an improved team, even without a lot of roster moves. I think you see someone like Serge Ibaka, a great defensive player, but because of his talent and skill level, you know there's a great ability on the offensive end, but we maybe haven't seen that development quite to the point that he is defensively. So that's just one example of a guy that really can develop and is continuing to develop, you know, and so he's a different guy now than he was a year ago, even though it's still Ibaka and number 9 on the back of his jersey.
We're taping this early, so we don't necessarily know what roster changes may have happened in the last few days of the preseason or early days of the season. But what did we learn in the preseason? Anything? Because even though these guys are young, it's kind of a veteran team by now. Yeah,
a lot of names and faces that are familiar to those of us that are around here. You know, I think we see again that they have a great ability even in the preseason to go out and find talent. They had, you know, 18 or 19 guys on their roster really deep into the preseason, which says they went out and found guys they really fell in love with and had a hard time in the end saying goodbye to any of these guys. And I think they really pushed the guys that were coming back too. So we may not have seen a ton out of the returning guys that we maybe didn't expect, but I do think Kendrick Perkins coming back and playing in the preseason it was a nod to his toughness again. Here's a guy that had several injuries during the playoffs, played through them. Everybody thought that he wouldn't be returning to the lineup until the season opener. That was kind of the goal. He returned way before that. Just kind of speaks to his toughness. And I think we're continuing to see those little improvements, incremental improvements in some of these other guys. I mentioned Serge Ibaka. I think his offensive game continues to impress me in the preseason. You keep seeing little signs that he's getting better that way. And then the leadership of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. You know, these guys are still 22, 3, 4 years old, and still young guys, but you can see that determination that they want to be better. They want these guys to be better, and ultimately to win a championship at some point.
The NBA season can wear you out. It wears me out, and I only have to attend home games. Plus, these guys played in the Olympics, the core of the team did. Any concern of yours that, you know, their legs just may be a little tired at this point?
You know, I think it has to be a little bit of a concern to some of the people around the Thunder. You know, you're talking about a short season last year, a condensed season. They played those 66 games in a relatively short time, a lot of back-to-backs and even some back-to-back-to-back situations that we know that they played. Then they played as deep into the playoffs as any team. Then they turn around and have, you know, 3 Americans and then Serge Ibaka playing for the Spanish team playing in the Olympics. So they played a lot of basketball. But at the same time, I think people around the team would say those same guys are going to be in the gym regardless. If they were doing it in the Olympics or they were doing it in their hometowns, they were still going to play a lot of basketball. So I don't know if it's going to be a huge issue, but I think it's at least something that they have to be mindful of, and, you know, chances to get guys rest when they can. But clearly this season not being that super condensed season, it'll play a little differently. They'll have off days. They'll have practice days where they can take it a little bit easier. So I think they're monitoring that. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Kevin Durant entered the league, and his second year here in Oklahoma City, he had, you know, this great attitude and this, you know, kind of the boyish charm and a lot of energy and excitement about his game, and his attitude, I think, has always been so impressive. And you know, he's becoming though a veteran superstar now.
Yeah.
So he's had a movie. He's had his picture on Times Square last week. I was in a mall in a city far, far from here, and there's this huge picture of him on in front of the glass of people trying to sell tennis shoes. He's on the fronts of magazines. Is there any concern of yours that at some point Kevin's going to evolve into a different person than he's been?
Well, I think it's always a possibility, but we sure haven't seen any sign of it yet. I mean, here's a guy that, you know, you mentioned, you know, malls in other parts of the country, other parts of the world. Kevin Durant goes to, and he's as popular in China, I think, as he is in Oklahoma, which is amazing to think that here in Oklahoma, where the NBA wasn't even a possibility, you know, a decade or so ago, we now have a global icon in Kevin Durant. So he's obviously a huge deal already, and he's still very much, to me, that good-hearted team guy that we saw in his first year. You know, I guess things could change, but here's a guy that has signed long-term. He says he wants to be here. He's shown that by inking with this team, doing the max deal, the longest terms that he could do. So I still think he's very much the guy that knows the names of the ushers at the arena, and you know, and shakes every hand and signs every autograph he can, which is remarkable. It's a great sign to him, but it's also a nod to his family and the way that they raised him.
I went to the preseason game in Tulsa, and you and I both know how many people come from out of town, maybe inside the state, but out of town to Thunder home games and check in with the team and watch them on television. It does appear that this team has accomplished its goal of becoming the statewide cultural phenomenon.
I agree with you totally. Yeah, we heard from a lot of people during the playoffs at the newspaper. You know, people in Tulsa saying, you know, we're driving down, we're excited about the Thunder. And, you know, I think it would be difficult if you're there and the arena's here to really have that great connection. But clearly it's happening. We've seen it with the TV numbers. You know, that's part of it too. You can really tell that it's not just an Oklahoma City thing, it's a statewide thing. And it's really cool. I mean, let's just be honest. You know, this state has always been sports crazy, but you've either been a Cowboy fan or a Sooner fan for the most part. This is really the first time we've had one thing that's brought everybody together, and I love the fact that it's Tulsa, it's Weatherford, it's Gotebo. I mean, it's everywhere you go in this state. People talk about the Thunder and what a great, great thing it is for this state. You
can read Jenny Carlson's work in the Oklahoman. Thank you for coming by.
You got it. Thanks.
We'll have more on the Mayor's Magazine when we return.
Did you know 1/3 of an average landfill is made up of packaging material? Why be part of the problem? Recycling is as easy as rinsing and throwing. No need to sort. Set out the little blue bin on your regular trash day. Now it even pays to recycle. Each week, one lucky Oklahoma City resident will win $100 just for setting out their little blue bin full of the proper recyclable materials. Be part of the solution. Start recycling today.
That's a wrap, Rumble.
Welcome back to the Mayor's Magazine. Brenda Bennett is the Vice President of Marketing and Advertising for the Oklahoma City Barons. Welcome to the Mayor's Magazine.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, you guys have been skating for a little while here. How's the early part of the season going?
Well, we had our first home game on the 19th of October, and we had about 6,500 in attendance, so it was a good home opener. We won, and we've made some changes to the show, so it was really exciting. And then Saturday as well, we had another good night, but we gave away 2 cars. So
wow,
yeah,
way to go!
And we have 10 more to go.
How happy were the people that won the cars? Were they pretty thrilled?
It was great. The first gentleman who won, if you were in the audience watching, you would think, well, he's not excited at all, because he was about to hyperventilate. I mean, he was shaking so much. We really thought he was going to hyperventilate and pass out. And so we get him backstage, and he's crying. His wife is crying. He's shaking. He can't even write. And then the next night, Saturday night, an amazing story. A gentleman who was retiring as a teacher. He had just bought his mother's, an 88-year-old mother, a car. He was driving an '89 pickup truck. And come to find out, he would pay for things for his kids. I mean, the story behind this man was amazing. He was a great teacher, would pay things for his kids who couldn't afford it, and he was really, really deserving, and it was just a really neat story.
That is good.
Yeah, that's the kind of person you want to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of talk about the improved roster. The NHL's lockout has produced a more powerful roster than we would have expected.
You know, if there's anybody watching who hasn't seen hockey, ice hockey, now is the time to come see it. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Jordan Eberle, they are amazing. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was the #1 NHL draft pick, and he's playing for the Barons. And this kid's 19, and he's being compared to Wayne Gretzky. He's just amazing. The talent is unbelievable. So,
when you're marketing these days, especially a sports team, there's all sorts of options for you, especially with the new social media aspects. So, where do you start? How do you, if you're the vice president in charge of marketing, where do you start trying to market a team like this?
You buy cars. You make a splash, and really, that's what we're trying to do this year: is make a splash. And once people get in the arena, that didn't grow up with hockey, which is most of us in Oklahoma, and they see how amazing the sport is and how much fun it is, they're going to come back. So we're just doing kind of non-traditional things this year.
How well is the community supporting the team?
You know, we have a great fan base, just a really amazing fan base, and every time we're out, every time I've been in the arena so far, we're getting really good feedback. So, really good feedback.
And the corporate community?
Corporate, we have great corporate partners. Always looking for more, of course. But you know, Chesapeake was one of our founding partners, and Devon and Sandridge, and you know, everybody in the community wants to help support the team, and we're very appreciative of that.
And ticket prices are very affordable.
You know, for a family to go out and have fun, you can buy tickets as low as $10. You know, on the glass or more, obviously, but you know, go out with your family, have some fun, enjoy some food, and you're going home, and you're not broke.
You know, one of the best things I like about going to the Cox Center for any event is the ease in parking. You know, because parking is so important to people. I mean, I don't know if it's just people in Oklahoma, but you know, people have high expectations for parking. And if you go to an event at the Cox Center, it's like you can have those expectations met. You can actually park for a relatively inexpensive amount of money underneath. You take an elevator, you're there. You never get cold. You never get wet.
That's true. It is an old building, but it is nice to have that parking. That is for sure.
It is so convenient.
Yeah.
What should our fans know about hockey? What's going to draw them out for this season?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me. Icing? No.
You probably know more than me about the rules.
I think really the opportunity to win a new car valued at $30,000 and up every Saturday home game this season. I mean, come out for that and then enjoy the sport. You know, and the quality of play, like I said, right now, you know, we never know when the NHL lockout's going to be over. So come now and watch these guys play.
All right.
So
Brenda Bennett is the Executive Vice President for Marketing for the Oklahoma City Barons. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Mick.
And we put the contact information on the screen so people can check out the website and order tickets to see the Barons and support our hockey team. Thanks again.
Thank you.
More on the Mayor's Magazine when we get back.
You know, I give, and it's just never enough.
Seriously?
When people take you for granted, what can you do?
Water the grass, not the street!
Using drought-tolerant plants, watering early in the morning, adding some mulch. It's not that hard. If we want to use our water wisely, we got to squeeze more out of every drop.
SqueezeEveryDrop.com. Oh, I gotta go. I got a date with a lake.
In Oklahoma, the sights and sounds of severe weather are all too familiar. Do you know what to do when you hear an outdoor warning siren?
I'm Frank Barnes, Oklahoma City Emergency Manager. In Oklahoma City, the sirens sound to warn you that weather conditions may produce a tornado.
That's your signal to take shelter and seek information about where severe weather could strike.
And remember, an all-clear signal does not sound. Always monitor the weather conditions until the threat has passed.
Welcome back to the Mayor's Magazine. In this segment, we're going to meet Gary Desjardins. Gary is the Regional General Manager for SMG, which manages the Chesapeake Energy Arena, as well as the Cox Convention Center.
Yes.
And it's basketball season, so I guess that means a lot of stressful days for the staff and yourself.
Fortunately, it's a little bit better than the not knowing of what was happening last year with the lockout.
Well, so that's right. The uncertainty can drive you crazy in your business, I guess.
That was, and you know, so we're glad to get back into a semi-normal routine with a few twists this year.
A lot of home games in November. I mean, you guys, you know, you'd think you might get to ease into it, but they're just throwing games at you guys.
Yeah,
right and left.
It's kind of interesting the way that the schedule ended up coming out. You know, we know we're going to have the off time during the All-Star, you know, when the All-Star break is, and then there's only 28 days in February, so we expect that we're not going to play as many at that time, but we are a bit front-loaded in November because we have a lot of games.
I attended the Thunder's preseason game in Tulsa and could immediately tell that the team's presence is elevated statewide. In fact, it was related to me that, you know, they think the Thunder is the most popular sports team in Tulsa. You know, maybe perhaps superseding some of the Tulsa-based teams, which might make sense because of the the long playoff run. But are you sensing that the Tulsa market is getting a stronger level of support for the Thunder than they had when they came?
Yeah, and not just Tulsa. Even in Wichita and up in the southern part of Kansas, there's a good number of season ticket members from that part of not even the states, outside of the state, and those folks coming down, and they are Thunder fans. And because I go up to Wichita on a fairly regular basis, and I hear it, and there's a lot of excitement even up, you know, in that neck of the woods, and all the way out to Amarillo. So the draw is regional. It's not just statewide. It's actually regional of where we're seeing the fans, and a lot of excitement.
The team's on television a lot this year. Does that affect you and what you guys do?
Not tremendous amount, except for on the Sunday games where there's an earlier start and takes a little bit of time for a TV production to get set up and a lot of the backstage areas. So if we have a conversion going to and from an event, I'll give you a good example. Although UFC ended up, because of 3 injuries for our November 3rd event, ended up canceling, so we're looking at rescheduling that one. But we were actually loading that show in the day before opening night, flipping over, having opening night on November 2nd, and then converting back over to UFC, only because of what it took in order to get the TV production in. So when there is a televised production, there's a little bit more to it in terms of getting set up and then broken down for the next event. That's probably the biggest impact, but everything else actually inside the building on a daily basis or day of game basis is pretty normal. So,
hockey teams playing in the convention center, how's that working out?
Doing well. We made a few improvements in the convention center, some new fan amenities, and mainly regarding safety with new handrails in the 300 level and new treads on the steps to make it a little bit safer and easier to navigate, and new wayfinding signage, new graphics.
Because the Cox Center was originally built pre-ADA.
Yes.
And so there are always things we could do today that would be done differently if we started over.
Yeah, well before the ADA was ever enacted or even conceived of. So a lot of improvements there, and new improvements in the Chesapeake Arena.
Yeah, let's talk about those. What will the fans see when they enter the arena for the first time
this
year?
The biggest impact is the new entry on the southwest side of the arena. So you can enter in through there. We have the new center court grill that's open, new restaurant that's open to everybody. Good. Food is excellent, so we can take reservations before any event and be able to dine and eat in there. And then the new entries all the way up going into the club level and the upper level. And then the last phase is going to be the team office space, which that's the last phase to be completed. The impact on the city and the state from a facility standpoint is remarkable. Last week we had a group in from Boston, from the TD Garden and the Boston Bruins, looking at the improvements, and they're looking at renovations. And so we're showing the arena off to a good number of people in our industry just to see what we have, because they've heard so many positive things about the experience and the amenities and the renovation to the building. And so we have something extremely nice and to be proud of, and the city of Oklahoma
Just
City.
about a minute left, but did the changes, the new construction, did that change the programming from your staffing level? Do you have to move people around to different parts of the building?
We do now, just because it's a little bit larger, so there's more areas to cover, more areas to secure, more areas to maintain. But it's a much better experience for everybody, including our staff, because it's a lot easier now to work in. We just about have our full utilization of all of our storage space, and for us to be able to operate and maintain the building. So that's all been very positive.
You have a lot of part-time staffing and employees. How's that going? Are you able to find the people you need, or do we need to put out a call for entries?
That's an ongoing process. We have a job fair that we usually have every August or September. So we've ramped up. We're still hiring. We're still short in a few areas. So we've got about right now between 800 and 900 people on our payroll. It usually takes between 300 and 400 people to work a Thunder game. And then when we have the Barons playing and the Thunder or another event at the Chesapeake Arena, we get stretched a little bit.
All right. So if somebody's looking for some part-time work, they can contact you guys down at the arena. Gary, thanks and good luck this season.
Thank you.
Gary Desjardins is the Regional General Manager of SMG. Does a wonderful job of managing those two facilities. We'll have more on the Mayor's Magazine after this.
Imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. So let's join hands, book people unite, unearth hidden passion. Come on, we'll have a good time. One book helps to change a life. People unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
Stop. Whether it's on the way to school, at school, or online, bullying has become a non-stop threat to our youth today. Is your child being bullied? The National Runaway Switchboard can help. If you're having a hard time, get online or call to chat now.
Welcome back to the Mayor's Magazine. In this segment, we're going to learn about cleats for kids, and Stacy McDaniel is here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You and your husband, Mark, started this organization, and I think most people can relate. If they don't have kids that are growing and are active, they probably have heard about it, but the cost of outfitting a kid for sports has just gotten outrageous. The shoes, no matter what sport you're playing, and of course, one pair of shoes won't work for any other sport. You got to have a different pair of shoes. Why, I don't necessarily know, but you have taken it as kind of your guiding force to figure out a way to help these kids and help the parents handle the cost of all this. Because kind of explain your background and how you got called to do this.
Well, Mark and I started this really, it came out of our experience with our three kids, Cole, Josh, and Megan, who are very active in sports. Being able to see kids who weren't able to locate cleats or the sports equipment that they needed, and hearing story after story after story of kids who either couldn't play or needed help playing, and at the same time knowing our kids outgrow their cleats every single season. And we really wanted to begin an organization because we didn't find anybody that was meeting that need in Oklahoma City. And so kind of the vision for Cleats for Kids was born out of that.
And so how does the process work?
It's very simple. What we do is we provide cleats, clothing, equipment to kids that are in need, and we take donations of new or gently used cleats or equipment. They can donate it individually at our office, which is centrally located here in Oklahoma City, right by Class and Circle, or we are very involved with getting schools, civic groups, businesses, retailers involved in having shoe drives and generating that support that way. And that's all delivered to us. We get it ready and we get it back out to kids that are in need.
The organization structure must be worrisome. I mean,
It can get very busy at time, but we are very focused on getting kids engaged and involved in volunteering, from the donation side to getting the items ready for distribution to distributing to the kids. And so we encourage and engage kids to come volunteer of any age, really. Younger kids can get involved in the donation side, and then the older middle school and high school kids can get involved more in the preparing the items and getting them to the kids that need them.
All sports involved here? Baseball?
baseball. We just did a baseball camp yesterday morning for kids who didn't have cleats.
Basketball?
Basketball, hockey, tennis,
so
golf.
hockey involves skates, of course.
Skates, golf, tennis rackets, basketball shoes, soccer balls. There's a huge need for balls, and just regular everyday shoes that kids need so that they can participate in PE classes at school.
And what sort of reaction are you getting from the rest of the community?
Just incredible. We have people contacting us just regularly, almost daily, wanting to make donations. We're very new. We just started operating this year in 2012. We have so far donated 2,000 pieces of equipment and shoes to kids that are in need. And on the flip side of that, we're getting a good reaction from civic organizations wanting to partner with us so that we can help support the activities that they have. Are
the sporting good retailers involved, or are they conflicted on the idea?
So far, we do not have any direct donations from sporting retailers. We have got some relationships where we're doing some shoe drives. So their support has been really good, and we would love to continue to develop those relationships in Oklahoma City and in the surrounding areas.
We're taping this show, or actually we're taping this show in late October, but it airs throughout the month of November. The reason that's important is because you have a big event coming up on November 10th.
We do.
So if you're watching this show and it's not November 10th yet, you can come out to the public basketball courts in downtown Oklahoma City, which is at what, Walker and Sheridan?
Yes, and you won't miss those. You won't miss the basketball courts. We're celebrating our 1-year anniversary. We're going to have lots of surprises, birthday cake, bands, and we'll be taking donations of new or gently used equipment so that we can get those to kids in need. Lots of kids will be there. We'll have food, and the first 100 donations will get a T-shirt.
What's the best way for people to interact with your organization? Is there a website address or a phone number that we can distribute?
Yes. My phone number at the office is area code 405-418-4889. They can contact me directly or via email, stacy@okcleatsforkids.org, or on our website, which is okcleatsforkids.org.
What are your biggest needs?
Right now, our biggest need, it's somewhat seasonal. So right now, as we enter basketball season, we're looking at gathering basketball, but we really need equipment of all types, and we get that turned around. We're not necessarily a warehouse. We try to get that turned around, and just because it's one particular season, football starting basketball, doesn't mean that baseball's not going on. For instance, the baseball camp that we did yesterday.
Kids of all ages involved?
Kids of all ages. We're really 2 kids, by kids, 4 kids, so we serve kids.
What was that?
2 kids, by kids, and 4 kids.
I see.
So we serve kids kindergarten through high school, and we engage kids that of all ages to come volunteer for us.
And if there was a need in the community, what would it be? What would you be asking for the citizens of Oklahoma City to help with?
Really, the citizens could help the most by going to their kids' closets, going to the bins in the garages that all parents have.
Who doesn't need to do that?
and dig through there and get out the stuff that your kids have outgrown, recycle it, give it a second life, and let a kid that might not be playing sports have that opportunity. Get it to us. Like I said, you can contact us through our telephone number or website, and look for shoe drives. The other thing that we really need are for schools, community organizations, youth groups to have shoe drives, and we'll provide the bins to collect. We'll help you with transportation of the items that you collect, and we'll take care of getting those to kids.
All right. Well, that's great. Great work.
Thank you.
Why don't you give out the website information one more time? We'll put it at the bottom of the screen.
Okay. It's okcleatsforkids, spelled out, .org.
Okay. And please go there, and as she mentioned it, if you needed an excuse to clean out your kid's closet, and who doesn't, go through there and find if it's still new or lightly used. There's another kid out there who could certainly use it. And with Stacy providing the infrastructure for the organization, you know it's going to be in good hands. Stacy, thank you, and thank Mark for us.
I will. Thank you.
The organization is called Cleats for Kids. They simply saw there was a need and are trying to fill it. That's going to do it for this edition of the Mayor's Magazine. We're so glad you joined us, and I hope you'll join us again next month when we have the December issue of the Mayor's Magazine. I'm Mick Cornett, the Mayor of Oklahoma City, and I'll see you next month.